YouTube channel today. So to start us off, can you just share with us a little bit about your background? So where you currently go to school, what year you're in, and sort of what, initially got you interested in signing up for a program like this?
So my name is Aadya. I go to Dublin High School in the Bay Area, California. I'm currently a senior in high school, and I feel like what really got me interested in a program the like Cambridge is my school's Biomedical Sciences Academy. Um, and so it gave me a lot of that academy gave me a lot of insight into medical sciences and like the medical field. And I was looking for research programs that really aligned with that. And Cambridge is something that really stood out to me.
Yeah, so when you were talking about the biomedical sciences, um, sort of like a student group, was it a student group?
So it's a pathway for students that are interested in taking a pre-med route in
Mm.
college. So it's an elective pathway, so it focuses on science classes um, that highlight medical practices and like the science behind why and the ethics behind that.
Mm. So, before I ask a little bit more, in detail about that, can you also share with us which program you ended up choosing to do with CCIR? Was it the Future Scholar program or was it the one-on-one program?
It was the Future Scholar program.
Okay, and what was the course that you ended up doing?
Forgive me, I don't remember the exact name, but it was on bioengineering and stem cells and like regenerative medicine with
Mm.
Dr. Burrell I from Harvard.
So, did you go into it knowing specifically that you're interested in regenerative medicine or bioengineering per se? Because I know that when you mentioned the pathway, it seems like a pretty broad, direction. So, how did you know that, coming in that you were interested already, or were you just open to exploring?
So I already had a slight interest in bioengineering and sort of stem cells. But it wasn't something that I had a concrete, like, I want to do this in my future. But yeah, I think I started this program as just wanting to explore more about it to see if it was something that fit for me. And by the end of it, it definitely is. It's what I'm applying as a major for most of my colleges, if not all.
Wow. That is really incredible. You sort of went into it exploring, and I mean, it sounds like a pretty inspiring journey for you. So can you take us through, the course portion of it, but also the writing of your own paper portion of it?
Yeah, of course. So, the course, it was a lot of lectures, just about the mechanics of it all and, um, new research, old research, how everything ties together. And it was really eye-opening for me, especially. And I feel like, Dr. I was really, he created this environment that was really helpful for me, especially to like learn and ask questions and feel comfortable asking questions. Um, So there was that. And then writing the paper, I've never written a research paper before. A lot of my classes, I feel like in school we just write essays and reports, but not really research or review papers. So I did struggle with that, but as mentioned earlier, like the environment that we created was it really helped me like feel comfortable asking questions on how to go about writing a research paper, and it made a lot more sense by the end.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about this environment because, it is a group class. And
Mhm.
so when lectures are being delivered, is there also a discussion portion to your learning, or how is this, environment where you can just ask any question cultivated?
Yeah, so for our group especially, I think we only had 4 people, and it was a lot of just, Dr. I really he wanted us to interrupt him and ask questions if we had anything or just, like, put them in the chat box and just overall, like, at the end of lectures, if he felt that anyone was confused, he would make sure, like, to call us out and, like, make sure that we understood everything, and to even like raise hypothetical like, "Oh, if this happened, what would we do?" And it wasn't really just strictly, "Oh, he only wants us to talk about what was mentioned in the lecture," but more of, he wanted us to explore our own interests. So it really helped with that.
So it seems like a pretty interactive process during the class. And so I'm wondering, after classes or between classes, how were you able to, I guess to preface this question, even though it's a group class, everyone is writing their individual papers, right?
Right.
So how were you able to, from the same lectures, same papers you're reading, formulate a question that is unique to your own research project?
We had a lot of so we had class discussions where we would bring in like we would bring in our own articles that we've read and like talk about those. And then we also had TA sessions where we were talking about our research, like where we wanted to go. And that was another way that really helped like create our own research questions. So
So, does the TA help you with, finding these articles or suggesting readings, or where do you go for additional resources?
yeah, so our TA gave us a lot of outside sources as to like where we could find articles and helped us sort of find ones that are reputable and find articles that are relevant as well and aren't like outdated.
Okay. And so, can you tell us a little bit about what topic you eventually selected to write your own individual paper on?
Yeah, I decided to focus my paper on skin tissue engineering and the limitations surrounding that and how we can go about improving the current state of skin tissue engineering.
That is so interesting. How far are you into your project? I don't know how much you're able to share, but with what you know so far, can you share a little bit with us of what you know so far?
Yeah, so what I know so far is just sort of the major materials that tend to be used, like collagen and cytosine. Can't pronounce some stuff very well, but those are some like materials that are used in skin tissue engineering currently, and some of them are materials that are being researched upon. And a lot of limitations that lie within skin tissue engineering tend to be with the visuals of it, and that plays a part in like patient mental health because for some people like the visuals of skin really matters, and that's also why I wanted to focus on that for my research.
So that's so interesting. You're almost speaking to the prosthetics side of things. And so I'm wondering if you're, using knowledge not necessarily only from bioengineering, but when it comes to prosthetics, and you also mentioned mental health, are you finding articles across different areas and sort of tying them together? Or is it more of like a, strictly bioengineering approach?
So my paper, the articles that I'm using for that are mostly just with the strictly bioengineering, looking at the materials being used. But for sort of my reasoning and like my introduction, I am pulling articles more in the field of like psychology, and that kind of like that area, just to talk about patient like their reactions post grafts or like post surgery for skin tissue engineering.
Yeah, super interesting. Um, I'm wondering also, when you are before I begin, so how far are you into this process of writing a paper?
I have a draft down. It's not perfect, but I'm still sort of trying to add more into what we could do in the future rather than just focusing on like what is currently happening. So.
Right, which sort of goes into answering the question that I was going to ask, which is, is this paper going to be, essentially a literature review of what's done, or are you also incorporating your own directions? And if you're also incorporating your own future directions, what are your bases of your hypothesis, or, the directions that you're proposing?
So the paper is mostly a literature review, just looking at the current limitations that we have. But in my conclusion towards the end, um, I wanted to start talking a little bit about where we could go, looking at like research that is currently happening in the field, and where that's going, what kind of results they're having. Like currently, though, that specific treatment hasn't been put out in clinical trial.
It sounds like a pretty, I guess, intricate process, especially for students who maybe have never written a research paper before. So, how much guidance do you think, you were able to get or are getting? Not necessarily in terms of collecting resources and stuff like that about the content, but more of the structure of how do I put together a piece of writing that, I can submit to conferences or journals, that kind of level of support.
I personally feel like there was a lot of support around that. As I mentioned, we had TA sessions between lectures, and in those we had like 2 or 3 sessions that were just sort of dedicated to figuring out how we wanted to structure our paper and answering questions surrounding that. So it really created a lot of comfort as far as knowing what I wanted to do and knowing how I wanted to structure it.
Okay. So you would say that students who don't necessarily have experience in this area could still feel comfortable applying and engaging in this process because of the level of structure and support that there is in the program. And so I'm going to ask you a different question, which is there something that you now know, having gone through the program that you wish you would have known? If we, go back in time, 3 to 4 months earlier, is there something that you wish you'd known?
Um, I feel like I wish I would have known a lot more about how to keep relevant information in like my paper and then take out things that I don't need. Because when I created my very, very first draft, it was like I think it was 15 pages long and it was just so there was so much stuff in there that I didn't really need. But I felt like I did just because of how much information I was trying to research to put into this paper. Um, so I feel like if I knew how to find how to figure out and like sort all the information that I was researching, it would have helped me a lot more. But yeah,
Would you say that you have a better grasp on it, having gone through the process?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think the other point that, what you just shared alluded to was sort of, having students be prepared for the level of exposure that they're going to get, in whatever course they sign up for, just because there's so much literature out there. People are constantly doing research. And so if you're taking your first dive into it, it is going to be a pretty deep dive. And so it's easy to be overwhelmed, which, sort of leads me to my next question, which is how much time do you think allocate to this whole CCIR process outside of your, school and extracurriculars that you're doing?
Um, I feel like while lectures were happening, it was about 2 hours of lectures and then TA session. But the time I was putting in for finding resources and finding research papers and drafting my paper, I feel like weekly it probably took maybe like 8 to 10 hours out of my week. But it really depends on how productive I was. I feel like when I was doing it, I had a lot more time. If I was doing the program now, I feel like I probably would have spent more time or tried to dedicate a whole day. Just it depends on how productive and how it depends on the topic as well. I feel like some topics are just easier to find sources on because of how popular they are, and then some topics tend to be a little harder. But that's
So given that the Future Scholar program, we do hold it while school is still ongoing, apart from our summer semester, which is why the summer semester is so competitive.
Mhm.
But were you happy with the time frame that you chose to do your Future Scholar program? First of all, when was that? Which semester was that? And also, if you could give recommendations to students in terms of time management, what would you, recommend?
So my cohort was it was over the summer technically, but when I started writing my research paper, that those few weeks overlapped with school because my school tends to start a little bit earlier. Um, so I feel like as far as time management goes, if possible, I would definitely like put aside at least an hour a day just to sort of focus in just on the research paper or just on finding sources. Um, but I feel like the time I spent was it was good. Like,
Okay. So an hour a day essentially to digest the readings, but also
mhm,
reach out to your professor for help, or just,
yeah.
go out into the Google Scholar, JSTOR, whatever, WorldCat, stuff like
Mhm.
that to find your own articles. Great. Is there anything that I didn't get to ask that you would love for students who are interested in this program to know?
Um, I don't really know. I think we hit a lot of the stuff that I was kind of wanting to talk about. Um, yeah.
All right, well, let's end it on a positive note. I guess what's one thing that you're looking forward to do, moving, just given that you're not fully done with the process yet?
Mhm. I'm looking forward to really finalizing my paper and wrapping up that like last sentence to start trying to get it published. And try to put like what I found out there and just work on my skills regarding that.
Yeah, good luck. I'm super excited for you. And also good luck with your college applications.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I hope that you really get to do more of this, even in college and beyond. And who knows where this will lead you. So super exciting. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.